often you pass her daily, but her scars are away from your eyes. She fought fiercely to break away. Her mind needed to be free. Her body needed to heal. Many wear their scars on the inside, hidden behind guilt and shame. She wears abuse on her back, marred by the evil remarks of her lover, safe from his constant attacks. He builds her up, only to bash her self-esteem down, to keep her there in his pit that surrounds her every emotion, feeling, touch, and being. He operates violently to the highest extreme, saying no, it's not an option, only yes, yes, I'll do whatever you say. She cries rivers on the inside as she gives in desperately. He replenishes his strength off of her skin, the brutal hate of his eyes.
You are listening to MFF Project's Identity of a Woman podcast, hosted by Chantel Branch, your domestic our live production. Visit www.mffproject.com.
Scars, you can't always see them. They remain stamped permanently to her soul. But the next time you look at her, do not be afraid. No, 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 please don't turn away. Scars are the remnant after the pain. But she lives. She survives. She broke free. She is me.
Hey, 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 everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. I am Chantel Branch, your domestic violence and sexual assault specialist. I am your educator, mentor, author, and speaker. And we have an amazing show for you ladies tonight. I'm super excited. I have a great guest, and I'm glad that everybody decided to tune in. I read your comments on Facebook, I read some of your comments on Instagram, and I'm excited about this conversation, and especially us as African American women beginning to break down some of the barriers that were built up before we were even born, right? And I think it goes back several generations of mothers and women and sisters as they were raised, the generation that they were raised in, the times that they were raised in, and how it affected their identity. How many of you got to an age, and I mean, for me, perhaps it was 13, 14, and you thought to yourself, or I thought to myself, I cannot wait to get out of my mother's house. I'm so sick of her. I'm so tired of her. I wish that she would just leave me alone. I'm keeping her house clean. I'm doing all of my homework. My grades are excellent. I wish she'd just leave me alone. And us as children, we don't always, and we never look at the sacrifices that our parents made for us. And I know mothers who are right now, we're raising daughters, we're raising teenagers, we're raising even little girls. And I know sometimes we believe and we give our children everything. And what we want in return is for them to appreciate it, to show us some gratitude. But I think we oftentimes forget that we were once that age, and how much did we praise our mothers? How much gratitude or gratification did we show to our mothers, right? Did we give our dads more attention if our dads brought us something, brought us a new bike, or brought us some big extravagant gift or something small? Did we give more attention and more praise to our dads and not our mothers? Where did the disconnect come from? And I want us to really dig deep today and really break that conversation down. Listen, I have a great guest, Coach Dominique. She is awesome. She is phenomenal. She is the founder of Pretty Me Inc. It is a girls' organization. And listen, I'm not even gonna go into everything that she does. I'm gonna let her come in and help. She's gonna come in and she's gonna talk to us and tell us everything that she does. Hey, Coach Dominique, how are
Hey,
you
how are
today?
you? I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your amazing platform.
You are welcome. As I kick the platform, right? On my foot.
That's so
So
great.
tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, and before we get deep into the mother-daughter relationship.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, like you said, my name is Coach Dominique. I am a certified life coach to teen girls, women with a specialty focus on parenting, coaching moms who have daughters. I also, like you said, am the executive director and founder of Pretty Meet Girls Mentoring Organization, which is an organization for girls between the ages of 12 to 18. In addition to that, I'm also a published author and a host of other things, a mom, a wife, a friend, a sister, and a whole bunch of other things. So I'm really excited about this conversation we're about to get into because it's right up my street.
Awesome, awesome. So I want to dig in deep. I want to jump right in right away. What age did you have the conversation of, I'm ready to leave my mother's house? She's getting on my damn nerve. I know you guys were cussing when y'all was kids. It was
Right,
cussing
let's
in your
let's
head
not
because you
front, right?
wasn't.
And I'm glad you mentioned in your head. So I was going to ask you, at what age did I have the conversation with her or with myself?
With yourself. Like, what age were you like, oh, when I get this age,
Mm,
I'm leaving. I'm never coming back. What age were you?
if I have to be honest, it was middle school. Like it was
Wow.
young. It
Okay.
11, 12 years old, to be honest. The time I had it with myself, for sure.
So, what did your family dynamic look like for you to even have that thought?
It was just my mom and myself for a period of time. I was the only child for 10 years. My mom was a single parent. My dad was not present. He was in and out. So it was just my mom and myself. My mom was a young parent as well. My mom had me when she was 16 years old. And prior to that, because how deep you want to go? Because this we
I
can
want us
go
to
there.
have the real conversation because I really
Yeah,
believe that, especially in our community, that we can look at our friends, our
yep.
sisters, our cousins, and we've all had similar journeys with our mothers. And I
Hmm.
think it's going to take us that generation to break that curse
Break
or
the
that chain or
curses.
that shackle off. So I want to go
Hmm.
deep today.
Yeah, let's do it. So talking about generational curses, my grandmother was a teen parent. So my grandmother had my mom when she was 14, and then my mom
Okay.
had me when she was 16. So it was a pattern. There was a lot of trauma there. On my grandmother had a lot of trauma in her life up until she passed, which then brought in a lot of trauma in my mother's life. I didn't even really find out until my adult years that my dad had his own trauma and stuff going on. So it was just a lot. And then here I come into the world, right? And so now these two teenagers whom are dealing with their own generational curses and their own trauma, for all intents and purposes, untreated trauma, unrecognized trauma, and now they
I
have
was
the
just gonna
responsibility,
say they didn't even
yeah,
know that they were going through trauma.
at
And then I
all.
love that you threw in, here I come into the world with teenage
Hmm.
parents.
Exactly. And now they have the responsibility of raising me and giving me all the things that they don't have, didn't have, and don't know to give. So it was a very interesting, traumatic, tumultuous upbringing for me. I guess you could say I was exposed to a lot of things that no child should be exposed to. I was put in a lot of situations that no child should be put in. And then there came a point in time where my mom decided to move away from all of that. So it went from my mom and my grandmother to just me and my mom, away from family, away from everything that we've known, to just her and I. So then that created its own ball of problems in itself. Because again, she was a young mother, and now she has the responsibility of taking care of this child, whom, I honestly can say I'm sure that there was some level of resentment there because my mom didn't really have a relationship with her mom as far as a nurturing relationship. So the first few years of my life, it was the three of us living together. It was really my grandmother and me. My mom was still a young mom. She was in school. She was working. She was gone a lot, right?
Okay.
So my grandmother and I had a really tight bond that my mother yearned for and she never had. So then here we are. Um, that dynamic is taken away. And I can only help but think now in my adult life that my mom had to be looking like, here's this little person who has a relationship with my mother that I've always wanted. And now it's just me and her. I have the responsibility of caring for her by myself. And I'm young. I still have life to live. There are things that I want to do. So, I think early on, out of my control, it created friction in our relationship from the beginning, I would say.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. I was even thinking about, I never thought of it that way, literally till you said it. And I know many of us have that relationship with grandma. And I think that's just grandma's roles across many cultures anyway, is to just be nurturing. But I also think that grandmothers have gone through so much
Yeah.
and they've made mistakes with their own children that they decide to do something different each grandkid. Like each grandkid, I think grandma just gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And even for myself, I just thought about me and my grandmother, how we had such a great relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And my family would say, "Oh, you're her favorite." Now I am like her last granddaughter.
Yeah.
And my mother was her sixth child. And I think
Mm.
her fifth daughter. So, and her youngest daughter. So it was, to come all that way through so many other women in our
Mm-hmm.
families that she cultivated, that she raised. But then I was able to really get that great relationship. And it is because she did learn some things.
Right.
But if we go back to when she was a young girl, what she taught her daughters and what they taught their
Mm-hmm.
daughters,
Mm-hmm.
it's, if I look at my oldest cousin, we have a different concept of how we're going to raise our daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, you know the mother is young, or the mother, perhaps she did get married,
Yeah.
perhaps. And I found it as I'm raising my daughters, when they get to a certain age, and again it is around middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and they begin to just change, and they're growing, and they're hormonal, and their body is doing lots of things, and they want to become their own person. And then it's still a part of mom who says, "Hey, wait a minute, this is my house.
Yeah.
I'm paying the bills in here." Right. And then if you're a single mom, I'm paying all the bills in
Mm-hmm.
here. You don't have, you can't talk to me like that. And so growing up in a household where you're not allowed to express yourself, you're not allowed to say, "Mommy, I didn't like when you did that." Like, because it's a retaliation or a rebuke against you.
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, you don't know how to handle that. You don't know how to um, decipher that trauma. You don't know how to understand that, hey, mom had a bad week.
Right.
Mom been struggling with the rent for months. Mom is in between work, and so she's agitated and frustrated. Mom's boyfriend is abusive, or mama ain't got no man and she want a man, and she been chasing this man, but when she comes home, she's bringing this frustration out on her kids. And I think it looks different from boys and girls.
For sure. For sure.
So help us like dissect it. How do we as adults who have suffered those traumas
Mm-hmm.
in that relationship with our moms, how do we begin to first identify it, and then move away from that kind of like remove that from us,
Mm-hmm.
and then build on that relationship with our mom? Because now we're at an age where, hey, you know what, we knew that mom was a teenage mom, we knew that mom went through some things, and she put me through some things. So I guess my question is, how do we forgive our moms and move on?
Ooh, actually, it's a lot of questions there. Something I do want to point out too, when we're dealing with trauma from our past or from our upbringing, um, or as we were saying, our parents may have dealt with. Sometimes we have to look at it like there are things that they may have went through growing up, and we as children, unknowing, may trigger some of that trauma that they've experienced.
Yes.
So sometimes them lashing out on us out of nowhere, and we don't understand what the heck is going on. Sometimes it may be because we're doing something or exhibiting some sort of behavior that may trigger some trauma that they've experienced in their life. So as the parent, then the first step is you have to identify that there's a problem or that there's an area in your life that can be that needs to be fixed or improved, I should say. So that's the first step. If you don't really recognize that there's an issue within you, because parenting is actually more about you than it is the child, right? So if you don't recognize that there's an issue within you first, then that's an even bigger problem. Sometimes you may identify that there's a problem and you may not know how to fix it. So that's another thing. I think back in the day, the older generations, they didn't talk about therapy. What's counseling? Girl, you better pray about it and give it to God and move along. You know what I mean? It was very taboo to talk about going to, therapy, and, they have all these negative connotations that accompany seeking help, right? Are you nuts? Are you crazy? You going to crazy house? All those things. And that's just not the case. I'm very happy today that mental health is more of an welcome topic. But yeah, first and foremost, mom, you have to identify that there's an area of disconnect between you and your child, and it starts with you. You got to figure out what's going on with you that needs to be rehabbed in order for you to even begin to even think about cultivating a better relationship with you and your child. So fast forward into the question you asked, how do we begin to forgive our parents? I think us growing up in a different generation and times changing, we fortunately are able to understand and identify the things that they went through. So starting there and not putting so much, we have a tendency to, growing up, mom and dad are mom and dad. They're everything. They know everything. They're supposed to do everything. And it's just, they're robots. They can't have bad days. It's just, that's what it's supposed to be. Whereas now as adults, we realize they're just humans, and nobody's given a handbook in this life. And although they had us, they're still every day until we leave this earth, we're figuring out how to navigate through life, right? We're learning new things. Not only did they have to deal with their own trauma and heal from it, hopefully, and learn from it, but then they are now in charge of raising a child who is supposed to be smart and healthy and positive mental health and a great outstanding citizen in life who's able to cultivate positive relationships with other people and all these things. That's pressure, right? And then when we become parents, that is my mom used to always say, you don't understand when you have kids, and she was right to an extent. I do understand a lot more, but not just because I have my own kids. It does help, but it doesn't justify what my upbringing was and what that looked like. But I do have a better understanding. So to begin the process of forgiveness, you have to first forgive your parents for yourself. Period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Regardless, when I say that, I mean that's prior to having a conversation with them about what you're feeling. Before we even get to that, you have to in yourself say, you know what, I forgive them. Even I may or may not understand it, but I forgive them because I got to do that for myself first. Okay.
Yes.
Once you've done that, if you're still able to, have a conversation with your parents. But when you go into that conversation, do not go into it with any expectations.
Yes, that's good.
Don't go into the conversation like, okay, I'm going to say how I feel and I expect them to receive it. I expect them to understand it. I expect them to apologize, because you're setting yourself up for failure. So have the conversation for you. Get it off your chest, regardless of how they receive it, because you're doing this for you, right? Not necessarily for them. And then you just let it be. If you're able to get an apology, a sincere, genuine apology out of it, amazing. If not, and I'll give you an example. Me and my father. For my teenage years, I used to just I was angry. I didn't understand. So I would have disrespectful moments and all of those things. I did get to a place where I forgave him, because in my heart, I was always a daddy's girl, regardless of if he was there or not. So I got to a place where I did forgive him for myself prior to us having a conversation, right? I still desired an apology from him, but it had to be when he was ready.
Yeah.
It means nothing. It's very surface if you tell him and he's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm sorry. That's not what I wanted. I wanted him to take accountability, and I wanted him to understand my perspective of what I experienced and endured. So when he was ready, he came to me and he sat me down and he apologized, and that wiped the slate clean for me. Now, prior to that, again, I had already forgiven him because I needed to do that for myself and my own mental health and my own healing. And I didn't, have any expectations because he's a human being and it has to be on his timing and when he's able to process things and when he's ready to have that conversation. Because that's a hard conversation for any of us. Anytime you have to put the mirror on yourself and take accountability, that can be tough, right? So when he was able to come to me and own the mistakes and explain to me the dynamics of what he'd endured and all those things, that's when I said, you know what, thank you. And I let it go. There is no ifs, ands, buts, maybes about it. He owned it. We're good. I got it. I understand. There's no, unless you feel the need to really unpack and dive deep and dig through it, and that's your business. You're absolutely, that's your prerogative to do so. At that time, I didn't feel the need because I'd already forgiven.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's good. You said quite a few things. I like the fact you said accountability, and
mhm.
then even for the women that are listening, um, that are still struggling in that relationship, I think that one of the ways to identify, am I still struggling with my mom? I'm 20 years old. I'm 30 years old. Am I still struggling in a relationship with my mom? And one of the things that I think is a great indicator that if your mom texts you or call you and asks you to take her to the grocery store, and you like, damn, I
Mm,
don't, you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing
yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah,
Um, I think that's a great indicator, right? And it could be something that's that small and it's a big trigger for you. You get heart
yeah.
palpitations, the hair standing
Anxiety.
on the back of your head, right? You get anxiety, you got PTSD. You like, oh Lord, she gonna talk me to death. I hope she don't want to go to the Costco. Can we just go to Walgreens? I can take her to Walgreens, but when we go to Costco, she just want to stop at everything. She want to eat all the samples. She really, she really got my blood pressure up, and it's just a trip to the grocery store. And so I remember, as for myself, as a um, like in my 20s, I just remember thinking like, man, I wish I could have a relationship like my friends. Them and
Mm-hmm.
their moms, they're going to get their nails done. Me and my mom, we always got our hair done, but I was like 5, 6, 7,
Right, 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 right,
so
right.
that's different from being an adult and actually enjoying the service that you're getting, and she's enjoying her service, and you guys have a real woman to woman adult conversation, and not her trying to tell you what you need to do and how to run your household. And I think that I don't know if it's a battle from birth, like
Mm-hmm.
raising daughters, and they just we us as women, we have our own minds. We want to do our own thing, and when that is challenged to a point of no, you can't do it, and we are stopped, it's just sometimes something in us that says, no, I'm going to do it anyway,
Anyway,
and I'm going to do it my way. And then it builds up that resentment, it builds that wedge, especially from mothers who are not who don't understand how to let us grow, how to let their
mhm.
children grow, how to allow their children to express themselves. And so I like the fact that you said being accountable, being able to realize, hey, there's something wrong. And then
Yeah.
also, you, like you said, you were like, hey, I was the little, flip or at the
Yep.
mouth. And, and so being able to recognize your actions, because
Yep.
for every action is a reaction. And so
Mm-hmm.
when mama texts and say, can you take us to the store? And you like, damn, like you just put energy into that damn. You just
Yep.
put energy into tripping out, to texting your friend, to texting your sister or your brother, finding out what they doing. And
Right.
you frustrated because you've been waiting 10 minutes for your brother to text you back to tell you he working and he ain't going to be able to take her anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right. 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 I think we have to realize that sometimes, especially our parents, because they're older and they sometimes get set in their ways. So at the end of the day, yes, there are parents, but they're human beings before that. And just like with your girlfriends or with that man you have issues with or whatever, you figure out what level to deal with people on. And so if you know that your mom is just stuck in her ways and she is who she is and there is no rehabilitation there whatsoever, then that's when you have to learn how to deal with her and when to deal with her and what level to deal with her on. And that's okay. Why? Because you have to be able to protect your peace at all costs. And should
Yes.
nobody be able to disrupt that. So regardless if it's your mama, your daddy, sister, cousin, uncle, brother, whomever, once you really figure out, okay, you know what? I can only take this person in these amount of doses, or this is the level that I can deal with her. So if I see my mama today, I know I can't see her again. It's a Friday because it'll just be
Right.
too much. Then you need to make that mental note, and then you need to move forward accordingly. And do not allow them or anybody else to manipulate you and make you feel guilty about doing the things that you need to do to protect your peace and your mental health.
And that's a
So
boundary that
yeah,
I
there you go.
oftentimes talk about it in relationships, intimate relationships, but this is a
Hmm.
platonic relationship. And so it goes back to teaching people how to treat you. You have to,
Yeah.
when you become an adult, and mama's gonna always be mama, but hey, mama, talk to me like we woman to woman. Let's
Hmm.
and not woman to woman as you date my man,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
having adult conversations. Like it's some things that as a mother, you can't tell your children until they have reached a level and an age of
Hmm.
maturity as a woman, as a human, in order to share some information, in order to share some of your past with them. They may not understand it at 13 or 23, but at 33, she gets it. It just clicks like that,
Yeah,
and it's a way for her to connect more with you.
for sure.
um
Absolutely.
and I think a lot of times you are alluding to it, but a lot of times with counseling, and especially the older generations, it was fear of everything that happened to us in the past, of back in their lives, and fear of telling someone what's going on in your household because you don't want to be judged, or you don't want to be left out of attaining some type of resources because they believe that there's some problems going on in your house, right? And so that's going to affect you possibly, you know, buying a house because the whole neighborhood has spread some stuff about
Hmm.
you, and the
Hmm.
person that's going to give you the loan heard, whatever's going
Fear
on
and
in your house.
embarrassment. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so that that fear, it just kind it cripples that person, then it cripples their children, and it cripples their grandchildren, and it stays with the generations. And that is why I wanted to have this conversation, so that people can understand that it's okay to putting your mental health first, right?
You have
Setting that
to.
boundary for your mom, for your dad, for your relationship, even for your adult children. Hey, you know what? I'm not
Yeah.
babysitting today.
Yeah.
You could take little man on over there to his daddy, or see if
Yeah.
the other grandma is available. I love that. We'll see if the other grandma can do it. That is hilarious to me. But being able to use your voice, our voices have so much power, and it's okay to say those words, because you have a, like, I love that you said, protect your peace.
Yeah.
Protect your
You
peace.
have to.
I wanted to read one of the comments. So I asked the question, how come we believe mom and me can no longer get along? Why are we in such a hurry to leave home? And one woman, she responded and says, Barbara responded and says this, she said, I think the earlier they leave, the better chance they have at surviving. And she expanded on that and explained that it works because children learn to work and live independently. They actually get a chance to learn what life is like away from home. I know this can be done because I had my own apartment when I was 16. I had my daughter. I worked and went to night school and finished high school. I did really well after many struggles. I made it. What do you take, or what do you gather from that situation, from that particular generation? Because I would say Barb's probably a baby boomer.
Yeah. And that's what worked for her. And I think as we can see, especially in the generation that we are in right now, I don't think that that same thing would be as effective with these current teenagers. If you just kick them
Mhm.
out at 16 and expected them to spread their wings and fly, they're going to hit the ground before they even
I'm
make it
like,
off
oh
the
my
ground.
God, I can't text. Oh my God, my cell phone.
Exactly. So
No
I
Wi-Fi.
I think back then, of course, it was completely different. The kids works. The kids had chores. They had responsibilities. And if you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, you was getting whooped out your sleep until it got done. Like, you know what I mean? So there weren't any shortcuts. There wasn't no sitting around, especially on weekends, Saturday mornings. I don't know about you, but listen, that was okay. Let's go time. It's time to clean up, time to get up.
Yeah.
You were taught responsibility. You were taught independence. There wasn't any way around it. There wasn't really
Absolutely.
any coddling. There wasn't much nurturing. It was, this is
Nurturing at
what we got
all.
to do. This, when we got to get it done. It's about business. Go, go, go. It was so structured. It was so serious. So I think that may have worked for Barbara because she came up in a time where there was no other way. You gonna get out here, you gonna earn your keep, and then you gonna get out.
Right.
Like, that's just what it was. And that's not what it is today. You also have to look at it, granted, obviously in my situation, they were having babies young then too. But today it's younger and younger without any guidance, without any instruction, without any support. And I just don't think that that particular scenario would be as effective today as it was for her. It's just not realistic. These kids are lazy. I'm gonna just call a spade a spade. They are entitled. They feel like things should be handled to them. They are spoiled. They're also brainwashed by media and think that, oh,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna just become
A
social media famous
CEO.
and right, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm gonna be social media famous. I'm gonna be rich and live happily ever after. Now, that's not how that works.
Yes.
But that, that's the reality that we are in today. So totally different aspects, totally different generations. I could see how that may have worked for Barbara's generation, but I don't see it working today.
Absolutely. And what I hear in that particular piece is survival.
She had
We,
to.
like and that and not saying that we don't have to survive, but I mean at that particular time, that's all it was. They live to survive. Whereas
Sure.
we have evolved so much in America that we are at a place where we can not only survive, but we are living and thriving. And I
Mhm.
think that that's the difference. That's the disconnect. That is the difference between Barbara's generation and our generation. We want to do more than survive, right? So we
Mhm.
we we are surviving. We worked. We went to high school. We worked. We went to college. We got degrees, PhDs. We still
Mhm.
working. We buying houses and cars, and so we are and starting businesses and going
Right.
into partnerships and getting stocks and going on fabulous vacations. And so it's past the point of surviving, and now it's at a place of thriving. But
Mhm.
the other part of the disconnect is, yeah, we're thriving, but we're in pain.
Mhm.
We have not dealt with that trauma. We
Mhm.
still don't have that relationship with our mothers or our fathers. We're still burdened and walking around with unforgiveness.
And that's where we then have to decide or look at the situation and see, is it ever going to come if we continue to kind of put the responsibility on our parents to give it to us. And that's when you have to say, whether I get it or not, I have to move forward. I have to seek therapy for myself. I have to seek counsel for myself so that I can begin to put one foot in front of the other and heal myself so that I can be, you hear parents all the time saying what they'll do for their child and, all these things, but what will you really do for your child? You're no good to
Yeah.
them if you're unhealed, if you're running around, let things trigger you, so you take it out on them and this, that, and the third, you're repeating the cycle. So you
Yeah.
have to break it by healing you on your own, whether that involves your parents or not. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we can't rely on that, unfortunately. So whether you do get that closure or you do end up cultivating that relationship that you've always desired, and if you are able to, that's amazing. But if you're not, that can't stop you from healing. You still have to put one foot in front of the other and begin that process so that you can then be a better example, a better mom, a better nurturer. My mom and I had a conversation where I told her, "You are an amazing provider, but you weren't my mom. Like, you weren't my nurse. There was no nurturing there. Like you said, you made an example. You see your friends with their parents. You're like, dang, I wish I had that relationship. I've had moments like that when I was a kid. And it was because I would see the mother-daughter, the nurturing aspect. My mom was a disciplinarian. She was a provider. Amazing. I had guest outfits. My hair was done. I was going to the shop. All of those things. But I needed my mom. So
Yeah.
because I didn't have that aspect, I internalized a lot of things. There were a lot of things that I was dealing with and going through that she had no idea about. Nor would she would have been able to help me because she didn't fix the own issues she had herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was up to me to heal myself, begin that process so that I can be a better mom to my kids.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even if we tied that to intimate relationship, if we
Yep.
tied that to you saying that you're ready and you want to be a wife, but have you, and I ask a lot of women, have you done the work to be a wife? Have you done the work internally? Because at the end of the day, like you said, if you don't do the work, it's gonna come out. It's gonna come out in that
It's gonna
relationship.
come
It's
out.
gonna come out in your marriage. You could be the best wife for pretend for the first 5 years, but you're gonna break at one point. And that breaking point, everything is coming up. All the hate, all the resentment, all the anger, all the pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your new husband, like, what the heck? This is not the woman that I married.
Like, where she come from? Yeah.
Where she come from? And so I always ask the question: are you ready to be, you telling me you want to be a wife, but have you done the work? What does that really look like? What does the process really look like when you need to heal, when you personally need to heal from that relationship? What does that look like? Can you kind of walk us through like some of the things, or um, some of the resources that we need to seek in order to do the work within ourselves or start the work?
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up intimate relationships because a lot of times too, because we didn't have that from our parents, we seek that in our significant others or our spouses. So thinking that that'll be our healing, we'll get it from them because they'll love me, they'll give me all of the things that I didn't have and all of the things that I desire. So we seek that in them, not realizing we're creating the balloon effect. Like you said, you don't do anything about it, it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you're gonna be triggered one day and it's gonna pop, and that could tear down your whole foundation and things that you just created with this person because you never took the time to really heal yourself. So taking the steps first, identify that something's not right with me. I don't think that it's normal that I have heart palpitations and I get anxious in certain situations. I don't think that it's normal that I'm tired all the time. I'm sleeping so much, or I don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
want to be bothered with people. I got these consistent headaches. There are signs. Your body is going to let you know, but you have to be in tune with yourself. I know sometimes it can be hard because we're super women, right? We wear so many hats
Yeah.
and we're running and going and things got to get done, but you are so important because if you weren't here, then all the other stuff would not matter. So first, recognizing what's going on within you, and once you do, seek help. There are so many resources. There are therapy for Black women on there online. We have the internet now. Utilize it. Look up the different resources that you have. What do you need a life coach? What do you need a therapist? Utilize your village. You have girlfriends. I have a sister circle that myself and a couple of my girlfriends created because we wanted to be around like-minded women, judgment-free, pressure-free, where we can just be ourselves and we can talk and we can laugh and we can heal. And we do that once a month. And it's very healthy. So, there's so many different things that you can do, but once you begin the process, it's no looking back. But the one thing I will say is don't be discouraged by setbacks because change is not going to happen overnight. You can't
Mm-mm.
cultivate a new habit overnight, and you can't beat yourself up when you fail in certain areas because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So,
Absolutely.
you know, first identify the problem, start to utilize your resources, whether that be your girlfriends, whether that be therapy. And I know it's hard, but you also have to be ready and willing to be open minded, to be vulnerable, to accept things that you cannot change. And
Yeah.
if you're able to do that, then that starts you on the path to healing.
That's good. That's really, really good. I know for me, and I'm putting this out there to everybody. You can't take, like, not saying you can't, but being in a the beauty industry for 21 years now. As a hairstylist, like I've heard so many stories, right? But I was oftentimes we're looked at as therapists, but let me tell you, y'all stories be weighing us down.
It's
You know,
draining.
it's draining. And so
Yeah.
I mean, y'all don't understand. Sometimes we the same way when your mama texts you, talking about can she take you to the store, and somebody may text us or book on the online site, we like, ooh, dang, oh, let me get my mind together. Let
Uh-huh.
me I used to psych myself up, especially if I had to do an extension service, but the client was overly emotional, or they were
Mm.
and they were just going through so much, or they always somebody was always hurting them, they were always a victim, um or they were never accountable for the things that they did. I mean, I'm just telling you, yes, like you said, a hairstylist, that's a good, that was a good way, a good segue, or a good gateway to kind of open up. But again, we could not, we don't have the capacity to therapy, to be your
Right,
therapist, to
right,
be your
right, right.
counselor. um and so having those different avenues, I believe that I was definitely an avenue for many women and men, and even little
Mm-hmm.
girls. Them little girls get in my chair and they've been and told me something about their mom. I just be washing and shampooing and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And but then the mother in me, hearing what she's saying, Lord, let me especially if I know it's a good mom, let me reinforce and back up what your mom is saying, but in a way that it doesn't come from I'm on your mom's side, but in a way of hearing another voice reinforcing, some of the positivity that your mom is trying to do. Well, maybe mom meant this, and maybe mom wants to do this, or maybe you can talk to your mom, but say it like this so that mom is
Absolutely.
not mad at you. And so those were just some of the ways and some of the avenues. And so I want people to just understand that therapy is okay. Therapy is okay. It's
It's
okay,
fine.
and it's needed. We need it. We need to heal. It's time for, especially the African American community.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stop walking around blind. We need to take the blinders off and get what we need. Like it should be like a big old like container, and it just say healing, like they used to have them CDs at Walmart or
Yeah.
DVDs for $5. It should be a big old thing of like healing, and we should just be digging in there,
Yeah.
getting our healing for all the trauma, because we have so much trauma built up inside of us.
And everybody's process is not going to look the same. So do not
Mhm.
think that because this worked for Sheila that it's going to work for you. You have to be able to pick and choose and take things from your village or from your resources or whatever, and then apply it to yourself based off of your needs, your wants, your desires. You can't, um, what's the word I'm looking for? You can't compare
Yeah.
your journey to anybody else's. So, what works for me? I love affirmations. I had to literally create my war room, and I put up, note cards and sticky notes and prayers and stuff on my wall. Where, because I go in my closet and I get dressed and stuff, I need to see these things every day as a reminder. You have to remember, in order to build a positive mental health, it's like a muscle. Think of it like a muscle. You have to
Hmm.
exercise it. So we are exposed to so much negativity on a daily basis that it's easy to have setbacks. It's easy to fall consumed to the negativity. It's easy to have low self-esteem, especially after getting off of Instagram, right? Everybody like, you know what? If I need to go do 1,000 sit-ups, I need to put these cookies down, child, because she
No,
on
no, they
here.
need to go to Dr. Miami. Let me see how much
Right.
Dr. Miami. And now you find yourself Googling Dr. Miami, and you could have
Googling
spent
him.
5 to 10 minutes saying a daily affirmation and affirming who
Yeah,
you are. But
yeah.
now you looking at Dr. Miami. You ain't got it. Why?
Right, right.
And if you
And
did get it, you still dealing with that
child,
hurt, that pain, that trauma, and
exactly.
now your stomach hurt because you done got it sewn up and
Girl, the
thrust and pulled
stomach, the
out, and
butt, the teeth, like, what is going on? You a Build-A-Bear now. So, like, let's so that, and there's no shade to anybody that wants to do that. Do your thing. If that is what makes you happy, genuinely, girlfriend, I will cheer you on. Let's go. What size booty you finna get today? Like, that's your prerogative. However, that cannot be your form of healing, because you have to heal from within first.
hmm yeah,
So I love affirmations. Some people like journaling, write it out. listening to podcasts and different things like that. Make it a habit and take baby steps. When I coach women, I typically give them a homework exercise, depending on the situation, where I say, I know, we wear so many hats. When do you take time for yourself? So one of the homework assignments is, okay, so this week we're going to start with 5 minutes a day. That 5 minutes is for you. It cannot include your spouse. It cannot include your kids. It is 100% for you. So whether that means you're in the room by yourself, listening to music, watching your favorite movie, reading a book, writing down in your journal, whatever that is, going to get your nails done, do that for you. I mean, it'll take more than 5 minutes, but that's just the beginning of it. So then the following week, it's like, okay, so, and I have them journal about it. So what did you do each day for that 5 minutes? So you can reflect on it. Okay, so now we're in the next week. So now let's raise it up to 15 minutes. And this is a priority. You can't, I don't have time. You do have time because it's you and you have to make you a priority. So now we're moving on to 15 minutes. We're going to take 15 minutes a day, whatever that 15 minutes looks like for you. But again, no work, no kids, no significant other, no mama who asked you to go to the grocery store. None of that. It's all about you. So that tends to be a really good exercise. I generally get a lot of great feedback from that because we don't realize how we get caught up in the hustle and bustle, and sometimes we lose ourselves. We lose ourselves in being a wife. We lose ourselves in being a mom. But then you have to stop and think, well, who were you before all of that became a thing?
You
Who were
forget.
you? Yeah.
You forget.
You lose it.
You lose it, and it is real. I mean, I just had my fourth baby, and then my youngest one prior to that is 10 years. Well, they're 10 years apart, and it's like I forgot all that stuff. I didn't remember. And then I was so busy. We're living through the pandemic. We're trying to, trying
Yeah.
to still work, working from home and schooling from home, and now you're pregnant from home, right?
Right.
And then but it's like for me, I lost everything, and I literally had a coach. I had a fitness coach because after I had this baby, I usually snap back. My body said,
Yeah.
girl, nah, it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
take a while, it's gonna take a minute, and it just wasn't happening. And I'm like, something's not right. And I remember and I got a fitness coach, and she told me all the stuff that you did. And the first day I had my workout, I realized I didn't have any time set aside for me to even work out. And I'm like, I done paid this girl this money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not showing no results. And it was literally like 7 days. It's time for us to meet again. And I'm crying. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. And I'm still trying to take care of 4 people, take care of a house,
Yeah.
work my job. Because of the pandemic, we don't know what's going to happen. And I think vaccines was kind of about to be out. It was just a
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of, or they were out, but everybody was afraid. It was just so much pressure on me. And so I love the fact that you are a coach. I love the fact that you led right into my last segment, was a mother support system. And us as women, we are not super moms. Like I put that hat down. I don't want it. I'm gonna burn it up. I don't want it. I'm not a super mom. I don't know everything. I'm telling
Mm-hmm.
people right now, I cannot help you. I can't do
Say
your
no.
hair, and
Find your
I
no.
can't find your no, use your no. It has been powerful. I still say, oh, let me check with my husband because that'll just get him right
Yeah.
on off for you.
Huh. Put it on him.
Right, but we cannot do it alone.
You can't. You're not
You
supposed
can't do
to.
it alone.
You're not
Yeah.
supposed to. I mean, I don't know, viewers and things like that, however many people have their walk with God, but I gotta talk about it because I definitely have one. He tells you you're supposed to have community. He created 2 people on the earth to begin with. He embraces community, he rewards community. So you're never supposed to do this thing by yourself, regardless of what it looks
Hmm.
like. Find your people. I'm not saying go be mindful. You don't want to go to your hairdresser and just unpack if that's not something that has been discussed and that's been welcome.
And don't
Find
be a
your
new
people
client doing that.
because you
You're gonna get blocked. They're not gonna. They're
real
gonna.
quick, like
They got the
I'm
they got the
gonna do my
online
hair.
system now. No, bro, I got no appointments.
Right. So no, find your people. Find the people that your village, your girlfriends, your sisters, um, the
And seek
mother
outside of
support
them
groups.
if they don't
Yeah,
work.
the support groups for moms or whatever that looks like. The parenting workshop, the books. the guides, the podcast. There's so many resources that you can utilize. You're not by
Audiobooks if you
yourself.
don't read.
Yeah.
Audiobooks. Come
Sit
on,
back with
y'all.
your wine and just listen.
We done gave y'all everything. Y'all just go on and cash app us now.
Right, because
Shoot.
there's no reason why you can't heal. There's no reason why after you heal you can't continue a positive walk. There's so many resources. Listen, call me if you need somebody to talk. Listen, you know what I mean? Because we have to be accountable to one another. We need each other. So whatever that looks like for you, utilize it because you matter. And if
Yes.
you don't know that, and if you don't believe that, then that's a problem.
You
So
can't teach your kids it. You can't teach your kids it.
that,
And then people, they see that you don't value yourself.
and that's how
And
they're
so
gonna
you
treat
wonder
you.
why I'm still in the same, why am I
Hmm.
falling out with all of my friends? Because they don't value you and they're not really your friends and you have not found your tribe and you have not even taken the step of faith or have hope that you can find a circle of people that are going to uplift you, that are going to
Hmm.
value you, that are going to love you, they're going to and a lot of times we look for acceptance, you know.
Yeah,
You're looking for people to accept you. Um, and I think starting that inner work within ourselves. Tell
that's
us
right.
how we can find you as a coach, and you know, what does that process? Not the whole, of course, like the whole process, but you know, kind of give us a little blurb or spill of what's a coach. I hear people talk about it all the time. Oh, I got to get a coach, or I need this kind of coach, or that kind of coach. But what, in essence, what kind of coach are you? How can you help us women be better for our
Absolutely.
future?
I am a very transparent coach. I, if you're coming to me as a client, I expect you to be coachable. That's a huge thing. Not everybody's coachable. I expect you to be coachable. I expect you to be open, but in return, I'm going to give you the same thing. I don't think it's fair to have people come and unpack so much stuff and then you give none of you in return. So please know that as one of my clients, you're getting me as well. I'm your accountability partner. I'm gonna hold your hand through it. I'm gonna walk you through it. We're gonna be together in it. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to spread your wings. But I'm gonna see you through it the whole entire time. So what that looks like to become one of my clients, I have a website, www.coachdominique.com. You go to my website, schedule a free consultation. So let's talk about what that looks like. Let's talk about what you're desiring, what area of improvement you're looking for. What can I do to be your accountability partner, your cheerleader? What things can we put in place to make sure that you are crushing those goals? You're turning those goals into accomplishments. That's the biggest thing. So definitely check out my website. Schedule a free consultation with me. It's free. Let's talk about it. And then from there, we can discuss, what packages and things like that works best for you, so that we can really get this thing in motion. Ain't no better time than the present to really put one foot in front of the other. That's the other thing. Stop putting it off. We don't know what tomorrow looking like. Stop putting it off. Let's get it done now. No time like the
And
present.
and the thing I want to add to that is we can dress ourselves up physically
Mhm.
on the
Mhm.
outside and we can look good,
Mhm.
but your inside is all messed up.
Mhm.
And if you think we can't see it, we can. Just like you can see us, you can look at us and see, and you can hear the authentic, whatever. Okay, you can hear that our voices are. You can hear that we're authentic. You can hear that. You can hear the passion that Coach Dominique has for the services that she provides to women, right? And then
100%.
even um for me and just what she has she's a founder of Pretty Me Inc., which is a girls group. You didn't talk about that yet, but my daughter is a part of that. And again, that's us noticing things about our children, about ourselves. And I'm noticing she needs a little bit more than my other two daughters, right?
Mhm.
And so, but she also is a middle kid. And so she needed something for
Mhm.
herself where she can be an individual,
Right.
right? And so Dominique had this wonderful program that she kept going through the pandemic, and we started on Zoom. And then now it's open back up to in person. But my daughter has grown so much, and I can tell that her confidence and that her self-esteem is rising, and is building up inside. And so I know that Coach Dominique got something good inside of her. I know that she can, if she can pull it up in a kid, she can pull it up in an adult. And that, you know, if we are spending money on everything, every other thing that we want, because
Mm-hmm.
we're entitled to, right? We work the job, we got the degree, we got the money, we yeah, our finances are looking good or they're not, but we still make enough money to go get what we want, to
Right.
go get on the
Right.
plane and go to where we want, drive the car that we want, buy the food that we
That we
want,
want.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that, so it's no excuse of why um you can't invest in yourself in a different aspect called your healing.
Mm, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, invest in your healing process, because I'd rather be healed and whole and happy than look good, Gucci down, Fendi, MK purse, all that stuff, claw nails on, and I'm tore up in the inside.
A
I
dressed
can't
up
hold.
garbage can.
Oh, that's good. A dressed up
A
garbage can.
dressed up garbage
Absolutely.
can. You're pretty on the
Absolutely.
outside and got a whole mess of stuff going on inside. You're a dressed up garbage can. That's not good
Right.
for
'Cause
you and nobody else.
nobody wants to be around that. They won't want to invite you to a party. You could get a date, but you can't keep a man.
Mm. He's
So,
not going
I
to
mean, it's
respect
a
you.
no, no. No, and then you have to give up too much for that relationship, and it wouldn't even be worth it. So you want people, especially a man, you want him to value for what you have inside, what you possess inside, for your fruits, that he can see that's, and you're not low hanging fruit, but you're high, you're high in the tree. You are good fruit. You are ripe. You are fresh. There's nothing in the inside, or there's nothing or people around you that's rotting you. You are good, right? And so if that's what you want, right? You want people to see that in you, but somehow they're seeing something else. Then invest in your healing,
Mm-hmm.
and go through the process. It's ugly, it's messy, it stank, it's
Uncomfortable.
dirty. You gonna cry, you gonna
Yep.
cry,
Yep.
you gonna cry. Just let it go. You gonna cry. You cried over that man. You cried over that relationship. You cried when you crashed the car. You cried when you lost a job. You're gonna cry through your healing process, but you're gonna be better on the outside. You won't be who you were. You'll be better than who you are looking in the mirror at.
You have to be ready and willing to let the person that you've known your entire life die so that the
That's
person that you
good.
were always meant to be can evolve and emerge and grow and flourish. You the whole having a man, if you dressed up and you got your Gucci on and you all this stuff and you a dressed up garbage can, the relationship is built on failure in the first place, because that is the foundation of which that man was attracted to you, and that's the individual that he wants. He doesn't know the person for who you are on the inside. So when all of that pain and all that starts to come out, he's like, oh, this ain't the chick that I thought was confident and beautiful with the Gucci down and da 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 da, who could compliment me. So that relationship was built on failure in the first place. Therefore, it's not going to last. Same thing with friendships. You attract those people
Hmm.
off of a lie. It's a false narrative that you're painting. So when you wondering like, dang, why I keep getting, these bogus friends and it's not working out and I'm getting hard, because you're not being you, your authentic self. You're showing up as your representative, and so therefore they're treating you as that, and they don't know who the person is inside. That's why you're not fulfilled.
Absolutely. That's good. Well, you already closed us out. That was a good closing thought. I just want to thank you so much for joining the show. It was a really good show.
Thank you for having me. This is
Um,
amazing. I love conversations like this because they're so rare but needed.
we need to have more and more and more. So happy Thursday to everybody. Don't forget to head on over to www.coachdominique.com. Book a session. Book a session. You heard Kevin Samuel say, book a session. Book a session.
Today,
Book
don't
a
wait.
session.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. And she got free consultations. Sam, you got
Right.
to come up with that. Kev wants that money. I mean, Kevin, he wants that money.
No, it's free.
So,
Call me. Hit me up. Let's do it.
absolutely. So, thank you, everybody. And you all have a wonderful evening. Happy Thursday. Stay safe, everybody.